Welcome to week 6 of Explore the Bible in the fall of 2024. And if you don't watch the other Bible Studies for Life, that video drops about an hour earlier than this one, which means that this is video number 601 on my channel. I think that's just crazy. 601. They haven't all been Bible study videos. A lot of them have been mission trips and youth camps and other kinds of things that we've done. But really excited about that. Going over the threshold of 600. We're headed towards 1,900 subscribers. So you need to be one of those. If you're not already, be a subscriber. Hit the little subscribe button. Hit the thumbs up button that you like the videos. And if you've got a question or a comment, want to let us know where you're watching from, be sure and put that in there as well. And then share the video with somebody else. Appreciate it if you do that. If you want to help support what we've been doing for the past good while here, now I think I'm in year 5, starting year 5 of doing this every week for Bible study, then you can go to give.exposedtochrist.com and you can give there. Okay, we're going to be continuing in Acts 16. Now, let me just tell you, next 3 weeks, Acts 16, 17, 18. I love these chapters because this is about Greece, and I go to Greece every year. I love the nation of Greece, love the people there, love seeing the sites, taking people to see the ancient sites where Paul did his ministry in Greece and going to all these spots. So I'm going to be showing you a few pictures as we go of some of these ancient places too over the next several weeks. Okay, Acts 16. From Troas, we put out to sea. Last week, remember, go to Macedonia, right? And sailed straight for Samothrace, the next day to Neapolis, and from there to Philippi, a Roman colony, a leading city of the district of Macedonia. And we stayed in that city for several days. We stayed there several days. And on the Sabbath day, we went outside the city gate by the river where we expected to find a place of prayer. We sat down and spoke to the women gathered there. Okay, so they have listened to the call, right? The Lord called them, come to Macedonia, the Macedonian man. And so Paul and Luke, they've gone to Macedonia. And they are in Philippi. That's the first city. It's a major city established by the Romans. It's a relatively young city as far as how long it's been really established. It was kind of a community area, but after Octavius wins a great battle there, then he establishes a Roman garrison in Philippi. So the city's been going strong for, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years. I mean, it's relatively a young city. It hasn't been a long time. Okay, so this city is there, and they're going to spend, he says, a few days. They spend several days. And then, look, I want you to pick up on what's happening here, right? On the Sabbath day, they go to this river, right, where we expected to find a place of prayer. Now, how in the world did they expect to find a place of prayer? Is that where people always gathered for prayer? No. It's because they'd spent several days walking around the city, talking to people, having conversations. Now, Paul's normal deal was, I'll go to the synagogue, but there wasn't a synagogue in Philippi. It's a relatively young city, and it's a Roman city, and so there's no synagogue there. So now he's kind of in... The Lord's put him into a new place, right? A new pattern. This is not the way that he normally did ministry. When he would go into a town, he'd go to the synagogue, he'd teach there, he'd get kicked out of there, and then he would start a church somewhere else, right, near that synagogue. But here, there's not one. So he's just going around and he's talking to people and he's asking questions. And he finds out that on the Sabbath day, there are these people that gather for prayer. So he says, we go down and we spoke to the women gathered there. There were only women gathered there. I'm going to tell you where this place is right here. This is the creek river. This is the place. Now, not necessarily exactly on this place, but this is that river that's outside of the ancient city of Philippi. This is where Paul went and met Lydia. It says there, a God-fearing woman named Lydia. She's God-fearing. She's named Lydia. She's a dealer in purple cloth, which means that she's wealthy. She's made money because this is the cloth of wealth, and so it's very expensive to have, so she's probably made some good money here, right? She's from the city of Thyatira. She's not a native to Philippi. Was listening. Okay, now catch this. Not who Paul normally starts with, right? She is not even from Philippi. She's wealthy. She's a woman named Lydia. She's probably not a Jew, right? Gentile. Paul is really on different ground here. And I want you to understand that. I think it's important to understand that, because sometimes we think that, well, everything was easy and they just did it and Paul was such a natural leader. No, the Lord put him in a very different circumstance for this. Okay? The Lord opened her heart to respond to what Paul was saying. And after she and her household were baptized, she urged us, if you consider me a believer in the Lord, come and stay at my house. And she persuaded us. All right. She was listening. This woman was listening. Now, it's clear here, right? It's not just that she heard, but she was really paying attention. She was listening to what was being said. And God was speaking to her, right? The Lord opened her heart. The Lord was moving in her life. She's already at a place of prayer. So the women that are gathered there have some spiritual openness. They're willing to have a conversation. They're wondering, right? Okay, they're not believers. They're not Jews. Most likely it seems that to be the case, right? They know they have a yearning for the Lord. They just don't know it, right? So they're coming to pray. Look, when you're gonna be sharing the gospel with people, you have to be aware that sometimes you meet people who just they want to know. They're yearning. There's a hunger within them that they cannot explain and they cannot fill. It is that God-sized hole in their soul that God has created, and they are yearning to fill that, and they know there's something more. And that's these people, right? And certainly that was Lydia. So the Lord opens her heart. She responds to what Paul is saying. And then she and her household were baptized. All of her family, those who lived with her, those who worked for her, hear this message. They all follow. They're baptized. And then she says, well, if you consider me a believer, come and stay at my house. You need a place. You need a base. I've got room. Come stay at my house. You think, well, this is the tough one for Paul. All right? Let's just be very real. It's Paul and Luke, Silas. What are they going to do? 3 men. She persuaded us. She said, if I'm a believer, if that's real, then come stay at my house. So they do. All right. Now look, we're at verse 29. We were just in verse 15. You need to read the chapter. Have you ever heard me say that before? Read all of Acts chapter 16. We get the story where Paul and Silas have been arrested for delivering a woman who was, I believe, trafficked woman who was under the oppression, possession of a demonic force, and they have delivered her from that demonic force, causing her owners, she was a slave, causing her owners to lose money, so they have filed suit. Paul and Silas have been arrested. They're now in jail. They're singing, praying in jail. When an earthquake happens, the doors open. That's the summation. The jailer called for lights. He rushed in and fell down trembling before Paul and Silas. He escorted them out and said, "Sirs, what must I do to be saved?" Talks about them being in the prison cell, praying and singing. But clearly the jailer was listening at some point. He'd heard what was being said, what they were praying about. He was becoming aware of what was happening. He was not at the river. He didn't hear Paul explaining the gospel. Maybe he'd heard Paul and Silas, Luke, as they're going around town. Maybe he'd heard that. I don't know. We don't know. But he'd heard something there. And so when the earthquake happens and the doors fly open, he assumes everybody's left, right? But they haven't left, right? And he falls down trembling before Paul and Silas, not before any of the others. He knew what was going on, and he knew that his life was on the edge, right? And he says, "What must I do to be saved?" You want to talk about people that are ready? This guy's ready, right? What do I have to do to get saved? He's ready. And they said, "Believe in the Lord Jesus and you will be saved, you and your household." Now, I just want to be clear here. What he's saying is, you can't be saved for your household. He's saying what's true for you is true for your household. Okay? Everybody, believe in the Lord Jesus, you will be saved. This is it. Paul has gotten it down, right? He's gotten it short. And I tell you what, we ought to listen to this. He's got it down short. Believe in Jesus, which means put your faith and trust, everything that you have, put all of it onto Jesus. Trust in Him alone for salvation, excuse me, and you will be saved. and they spoke the word of the Lord to him. They spoke the word of the Lord to him, along with everyone in his house. There was more to tell, but you want to get saved, this is what it takes. And he took them the same hour of the night, and washed their wounds. Right away, he and all his family were baptized, and he brought them into his house, and set a meal before them, and rejoiced because he had come to believe in God with his entire household. You see this, man, this turn, right? And he got baptized that night. He took care of Paul and Silas, and Paul and Silas took care of him. And he brought them to his house, and he set the meal down there, and he rejoiced because he'd come to believe in God. They had a meal together. In the middle of the night, this is going on for this guy, okay? You catch this? In the middle of the night, he's having this great celebration with them, what had come out of this prison cell. Now, we don't know if this is exactly the one, but this is what it's like. And you have to picture that all of this is covered, right? That there's this roof extends on out here and covers. This is a pit, man. This is a pit. It is tiny, but this is what that prison cell was like where they were being held. And when daylight came, the chief magistrate sent the police to say, release these men. You need to go release them. And the jailer reported these words to Paul. The magistrates have sent orders for you to be released, so come out now and go in peace. You hear this? Come out now, go in peace. What in the world? After they had the meal, Paul and Silas went back to jail. And the jailer says, look, y'all can come out now. They're going to release you. Come on out. They have said, we're going to release them. I want you to look at what Paul says. Paul said to them, they beat us in public without a trial. We're Roman citizens. And they threw us in jail. And now they're just going to send us away secretly? I don't think so. Certainly not. I don't think so. Right? Let them come themselves and escort us out. Just real quickly here, what I see in that is Paul saw the injustice that was taking place in Philippi. He saw how people were treated. He was one of them. He saw this woman and how she was treated. And he knew that I bet there were other people that were in that jail that were listening to them that night who they heard their stories too. And they knew that. And Paul says, no, you know what? These guys have been treating people unfairly, including us. But we are Roman citizens. We can actually take a stand that will get them in trouble, so that they have to straighten up. And so he says, I'm not going to do it. They're going to have to come down here themselves and get us out, lead us out of this jail, because they need to be held accountable for what they have done wrong. Paul had the ability to hold them accountable, and so he did. This is a Christian working in the justice system to bring justice to those who have been treated unjustly, okay? Then the police reported these words to the magistrates, and they were afraid when they heard that Paul and Silas were Roman citizens. So they came to appease them and escorted them out of the prison, urged them to leave town. They showed up, and then look, after leaving the jail, they came to Lydia's house where they saw and encouraged the brothers and sisters and departed. They encouraged them. They saw them, encouraged them at Lydia's house. Man, Paul, you see, and I believe this is one of his favorite churches, this church in Philippi. You read Philippians, you see it. Paul and Silas made this stand with them that was so important. And then when they got out, they didn't abandon. They went over to Lydia's house. They took their time. And that church that was meeting there in Lydia's house, they met with them and they talked with them and they encouraged them, and they were moving on. Paul had other places to go, but he'd spent enough time that church was going to be powerful. Do you know that there's a remnants of a church there in Philippi now from 300 AD that has Paul's name in tile in the floor? He had a great impact there. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope it's helped. God bless you for teaching. And thank you for watching. Appreciate it. Be sure and subscribe, like, comment, share with somebody else. We'll see you next time.